Okay, perfect. Great. Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
Great. Let's just do some beat. Just shake out the wrist a little bit. A little bit above the head. And just swing in to the shoulders and back. Grounding the feet down, and then just starting to roll into the knees a little bit. Let's set this up. Just bring the arms up a little bit, yeah. Slowly drawing the arm over. Nice and easy, not too far. Great, take into some rotation. It's a little bit more movement front and back. Careful at the back. And we'll take it a little bit inside outside. Just to get a little bit into a lunge. Just reaching, stretching up to the back. All the way. Really stretching out from the back foot to the top of the fingers. And then dropping the leg down to the ground, and at the same spiral. A little bit deeper, pressing a little bit more into the hip. And then changing the side of it. Come down to the knee. Perfect. The shoulders a little bit, just rolling front and back. Wide. To the side a little bit, yeah. Great, just sending out the elbows a little bit. Rolling the wrists. Right. Nice and heavy, just kind of shooting that hand out. Just trying to loosen the whole joint from the shoulder, the elbow to the wrist, and try and get into the fingers as well. Think of kind of creating space between the knuckles through the routine. Some of the fingers out. Like shaking water off the hands. Great, keep it going. Perfect. Good. Right. And then just play with making the movement a little bit, just a little bit more dynamic. In terms of going to raise it up, swing it out, raise it up, swing it out, raise it up, swing it out. Keep that same sense of releasing the joint through the movement. Think about kind of slapping movements. Also these kind of movements that you would go into like the uraken back fist. Just playing with a sense of releasing it a little bit further away from the body. Just play now with the feet a little bit, not really stepping, just kind of shifting the weight in the feet and just explore the same side connection. So think about the left foot and the left hand really working together. So you want to raise it, really think about focusing on the pathway down into the ground, that raise up. And then the strike, just kind of let the body kind of settle down, but just focusing on, if you're moving, work them together. You think about the sword work we're doing, especially these kind of balls, or even the first Saburu. We're generally working Aikido like 95% of the time we're working the same side connection. So left foot, left hand, right foot, right hand. Just play with this sense of raise and go. Wait, but really focusing on the connection down through the whole side of the body. That to that, that to that, that to that. And it can be from the front or the back, so you can also do this with a feeling from the back as well. That kind of movement, which will then go into kind of stepping movement. But just play with it in this case. That's it. Great, then really try with this one, starting from a really neutral position. So you want to feel a little bit like the arms have been pulled off and then kind of pinned back on, like really loosely. So they're kind of hanging down. But you want to feel like they're kind of heavy as well. So, but the key thing now is feel that the priority in this case, if you've got no real power in the arm, that it's going to come from the ground. So that feeling now is you want to get the sense that you're really engaging the movement from the ground directly. So just play this feeling really, really loose. Our tendency, especially in Aikido, but really anything is to like, I've already got the movement loaded, and then I'm going to kind of add into it. But what you want to really feel here is the priority in the connection, which is the lower over the upper. So the lower takes the priority, lower down. It doesn't feel kind of natural. So that's it. Try starting from a real kind of neutral position. So that's it. Yes. Then you're going to look at the idea of this is like mobilizing the movement, where the movement kind of comes from. Now look at stabilizing it. So you're going to stabilize it with the hand. We're going to go the classic one because it's one of the best movements we've got for this, is the hand in the tainenko. So this sense of dropping it in, but just focus on one side at a time. So you do everything with the right side, right foot, right hand, left foot, left hand, but just this sense of coming into it. So you've got the motivation here and the grounding into it. Motivate it, ground it. And that same kind of order with it. You want the lower body, the lower limb. In this case, the right foot is going to take the precedence in the movement. So as if the right foot's guiding in the hand. And keep that same working with the idea of starting the movement as well. So you start it, finish it. Start it, finish it. Same side. Same side. Same side. So that's it. And the main thing that's not kind of technical in this, it's a feeling. It's like you want to have the feeling that the ground is actually in the hand. So you want to feel that the hand's actually boom, hitting the ground. Boom, boom. And if you try this with a connection, if I go with the hand first, it will take me out because there's no structure to kind of hit, or it will kind of dribble. So look at this idea of boom, breathing, settling it, right. That's it. Great. And just think about there's two sides to the movement. So if you think about the form, you've got these kind of the front side and the back side in a sense, the back. So even though we're doing one side, you've got obviously the front hand. think about in this also, you've got the backhand with it. Same kind of connection, the back foot's going up, land. The back foot's going up, land. So just play with it, but again, just working one side at a time. Let the other side just be loose. Relaxed as much as you can. If it's kind of getting in the way, you can also just tuck it behind the back. Beautiful, let it rain into the ground. Right. So we'll just look at 3 patterns with this. You've got the Taina Henko movement. So it's really like, for instance, like the Shomanuchi. So it's like this kind of movement with the sword. We're going to go now to a koku movement, which for the hips is going to be a bit more like your movement. So you're going to use this kind of movement. And you just want to basically straight line through the body. That sense of the hand just weaving. And again, just focus on one side at a time. So you've got the right foot, left foot working all the same side at one time. That's it. Yeah, and again, think about the front side and the back side of this. If you look at that movement in a whole, you've got the back and front and back side and front side. So the same thing here. You can work the front side, obviously. You can work the back of the movement as well. So that same sense again, the back foot's gonna grab. Yeah, that's it. This is a slightly harder one to feel because if you think about this one's really direct, so you've got that into the ground. With this one, imagine still you've got that feeling in the elbow, which is basically the feelings underneath it. Now imagine the forearm is really going to spiral, but as if it's kind of sliding along like if you've got like a high table, you've got the sense that the arm's kind of rolling into it. So you're looking for that groundedness, that same feeling here, but you've got an extra element of it, which is going to be from the hip, opening through it. But you've got that sense that it's kind of rolling across the table. Right. Yeah, that's it. Which is a little bit harder going backwards, but just play with that. Again, the same foot, same side, roll into it. Great. And then again, it's a little bit more demanding. You're going to now think about the movements we've got in like 𝒌𝒻𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒃, where you've got these big kind of coiling spiral, but it's projecting really out from the body. I really think about this in terms of the ski work. So this kind of sense of the hip projecting in this kind of movement. So you've got a much more demanding. You've got the ground here in this one. You've got the ground here in this one, and then you've got the ground here in this one. But it's a much kind of deeper structure in a way. In terms of the front and back in this one, you can think about this kind of 𝒌𝒻𝒊𝒂𝒃 kind of movement. And you can also think about the same kind of movement, koku-nage, backwards into it. But that same sense of opening the hip back up and finding that kind of spiral through the joint system and then grounding it. So just play with these two sides. And again, just focusing on one side at a time. Okay, good. So there's a few drills you can do with this, but we'll go straight into the idea. You're going to use both sides now. So bring in both hands, both sides. The awareness back to the whole body. And what you want to focus on, rather than the handwork, focus on the footwork. So you want to start thinking really about, again, this is Toby's famous phrase, this kind of weight underneath, but really think in this case, the feet are going to be constantly grounding. So even when you're off the ground, think about the feet constantly rooting into the ground as you do it. And then just play with, once you've got that feeling, just play with these three movements. So you've got 1, 2, and then 3. Can use it this way. And you can do them in any combination. You just want to start to bring both sides of the body into the movement now. 2, 3. So bring a real sense of awareness into both legs now. So in terms of kind of feeling or concentration weight, it's kind of much more in the legs, much more in the lower body than the upper.
Hoe laat moet je naar bed? Hoe laat? Wat?
Tegen 1 uur of 11.
Oké, dus als ik terugkom, dan zie ik je. Dan ben jij er nog om 9:30. Dan doe ik de deur. Dan ben ik nu op slot. Zou je ook kunnen we het bed ook nog even schoon?
Okay, perfect. So we'll take this into an Ikkyo. So it's a classic example, really both sides kind of working together to kind of destabilize the person in this case. But just look at the idea now of coming up into it. Fine, it can be with any kind of movement. So it can be like an emote coming in. But just really focusing on the ground work. Keep the hands as loose as you can. So you want the arms to be, or you want the upper body to be light. You want the lower body to be really dense and heavy. So imagine, again, these kind of exercises are really great. This kind of, this one, it generates a feeling in the body that I can loosen the upper body a lot, and I can keep the density in the lower body. This is really actually very effective. So just think about keeping the arms as light as you can. This is a good one. It's kind of rotating like a 𝒉𝒂𝒕 tempo. Generates a little bit of momentum in the arms. And if I can lighten the upper body, the movement will kind of filter out to the arms. Just play with that heavy underneath.
Heb je steek op de week op de
Wat is dat?
ja, step op de
Perfect. So all these moves, all the techniques that we do the basic variations on this kind of movement, this kind of movement, this kind of movement. So in this one, I would just take it, imagine a 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒕𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 very first movement, again, focus on the sides of the body and how they're kind of working together. So that first movement, they kind of slice out. This left side arm, left side foot opening out. And then if you go to the atemi work, the same thing, that right foot, that right foot coming together. So that kind of movement. That kind of movement. So you want to focus first on the sides in terms of that's working together. Left, 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 right, right, together. Left, left, right, right. They come together. Right. Again, the lower is always taking priority over the upper, so get a sense that the feet lead the hands. Feet lead the hands. Yeah, good. So. Okay, good. Yeah, then if one of the ways to think about this is also if you think about there's this phrase we use sometimes like taking the slack out of the system. and we usually talk about it like in terms of the uke, like when they get to this kind of position, you want to take the slack out of the system, which means that kind of locks into place, and then you can take them into a kind of technique in this way. But also thinking about this in terms of yourself, you want the body, although it's light in the top, you want the sense of the slack being kind of taken out. So the classic one in this case, like we did yesterday, this tenchinai, this kind of stretching out the body. So I don't want to lock the system, but I want to get it to a point where it's into place. The main thing for us is that sense that in terms of this with an uke, I'm looking to take the slack out of the system so that it's directed away from the balance point. So the slack's out of the system and they've got no root in the ground. I want to do the opposite. I want to take the slack out of my system, but I want to root it in the ground. So you want to feel like that's in place. And then from here, from this position, going now into the ikkyo, but feel that you're really pressing it out of the ground this way. If I have a lot of slack in the system like this, this movement really dribbles and it's got no root to it. So imagine this movement now coming in right into the ground. So you've got a sense that you've got pressure really coming from the ground, and then you press it into the person, draw it down, and then come into it. So this is a real clear example of rooting yourself and then using the whole ground to kind of press the person out of the ground. Great. Yeah, and again, this technique, especially because we're working with both hands, as you get to this one, the upper, if you think about this idea of coming out from the ground, what tends to happen, the movement comes out of the ground, and then it goes to the arms, and then the arms find a spiral. And it's kind of like the legs are left behind with it, and then I'm basically coming out of it. But think in this case that again, the hips communicating to the hands in this case, that spiral, or the arc in the arms is going to come from the hips, opening it out. So in this one, let the hips really guide that movement in. The worst thing you can do with ikkyo in this case is the arms do it, and the hips get dragged through the movement. So imagine the hips, it's the opposite, it's the hips dragging the arms through the movement. There. So again, it's about finding the pathway to the ground through the hips into the legs, letting the hands really ground through the feet, through the footwork. That's it. There we go. Yeah, good. Nice. Yeah. Okie dokie, perfect. We'll go to a little bit of walking. Take a... great. So we will go just the first group, but first think about just do this with one arm. So you're going to again think about coordinating the hands and the feet together. We go back to the basics with it. So you're going to raise the foot and hand together, drop them in together. This is a classic kind of coordination exercise. The first is great for this. So that. Again, the lower takes precedence over the upper, so the foot pressure is going to lead the arm. The foot here is going to lead the arm. That's it. Good. So obviously you don't have the power with it that you would have with two hands. Obviously, really a two-handed weapon, but you can generate the power from it if you train this a lot. But it's not really one of the skills we're looking for, but possible. But just think of this really like a coordination exercise, and not really about generating power, but just coordinating it. And the main thing is to feel that you're really working with the ground all the time. Right. That's it. Very nice. Great. Work the same thing, just changing the leg, going to the left side, and just take the left hand in the same way you would grab with the right hand, just one sided. Get drawn it up and putting it down. Cutting it down. Perfect. Nice. And working with one hand is a really great thing because you've got to achieve less control of the weapon. So the body needs to kind of really come into alignment to work with it. Otherwise, it's just I'm going to use too much tension. So really nice exercise to do. Great. And then just coming back to two hands on the sword, and just again think about those two sides now joining together. So you want the hands leading the movement. The feet leading the movement, not the hands. Nice, great. Good, we'll take it into Zengo, so working front and back. Again, think about as you do it, that coordination down to the from the ground into the arms. So you're going to really release the sword in this case from the ground. So you've got that pathway. It's a really great place to start the move from, really deeply into the ground. And then you just release it, rotate into the back. Release it, rotate into the back. That's it. Great, we'll just go to the idea of shifting the body now. So it's basically you're working, you can do this left side or right side, just working with a shift from forwards or backwards. So you want to keep the orientation of the feet the same, wedge the body in, and you can also do the same backwards, this way, just working with a straight line Shomanuchi. So keep the side forward, same side forward, same side, that way. You can start on the left side to get the same side forward. Same side, forward. Right, and this is a little bit of a hangover because from the first Suburi, this idea of reaching the back in the arm. So with this, we're training this a lot, the sense of I draw the arms back and then I kind of cut. With this one, don't do that kind of movement. So don't think about getting to the back at all with this one. So in this case, you're not doing that, opening the body out. I know some people teach us to do this, but it doesn't really make sense because you're working with a much more of a kind of combat form. So just think in this case, the raising it to the head, coming up to this kind of position, and cutting down with it. The main thing with this is this movement. If I find the back will break, it will break all the coordination with this kind of feet to legs. So if I go to the back, I've got a choice. Either I delay the arms or I do them before and then I go in. This is, you really don't want to do this. So you don't want to split the body at all in this one. So think about just using the top of the head, and you want the feet raise the sword out. So really get the sense that the movement comes from and then out, here and then out. So you should be in movement as the sword raises. You shouldn't be stuck on the spot on this one.
Michael?
Yeah, sure.
You're talking about raising, but are you actually lowering your front foot so that you can move forward? Because I get a feeling that is more direct than first raising my front foot, lifting it, moving it, and then moving forward.
Oh, you mean, let me see.
So if I do it really exaggerated, it would be this.
Right.
Or this.
Do you mean pressing out the front foot or the back foot? You mean?
If I'm moving here, if I want to raise my front foot first, it goes up over.
Right.
Lower it, it just goes straight in.
Right. Yeah, you don't, yeah. It's the same kind of point actually in the first Suburi. It's like the coordination is to do that with the foot, which can lead to this idea of like raising it like this. But I want everything to go forward, right? So if you think I don't want to raise the foot and then go in that sense. Yeah. But my focus actually in this case is in the back foot. It's the same with the Suburi. If you think about the pattern in the Suburi, I'm not really concerned with that foot. I'm just filling the back leg, and that foot's drawn in. That same coordination, I'm thinking of pressing the back leg, which as I press in, releases that foot. So I'm not really thinking about raising that foot out. I'm thinking much more about sinking the back leg, which is that the consequence of that is going to release the foot. So it goes up, but the priority is in forward, or back. But that's that.
Yeah, you need to get your front foot off the floor to move forward.
Right.
Lifting it up to
right.
If you're not basically doing this with your hip.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
This.
Yeah, my intention is that the hips stay with the ground. Well,
Yeah.
that kind of fit rather than
Yeah.
that kind of raise out. Well, I mean, it naturally happens. The hips are kind of raising into it, but I don't want them to. I don't want to lose the ground in the process of it. So that's the kind of that's more when it comes like the feeling is that I want to cut into the ground with the body. So that sense of going with the feeling rather than that, or just like I don't want to skate on the ground either. So I don't want to like.
Yeah, that it's not sliding, but it's
not sliding. It's like in that kind of feel, which is useful for us because obviously like kendo, they kind of skate on the ground. Obviously they're used to ground in a different way, but I don't want. It's like if I translate that to Aikido. Yeah, so I want the feeling like underneath it, like you know, underneath it and rotating. So that's what I'm kind of thinking of when I do these kind of things, kind of compression and those kind of patterns. But sinking down primarily.
Realizing this, I think it also takes away a lot of signaling that you are giving to your opponent.
Yeah, totally.
You're just moving forward.
Right.
Instead of
I'm gonna do something now and then, right. So yeah, take it. That's also the main reason for that in terms of like, if you think about going to another movement from here, that sense, or even just with the Zengo, like that, I've got the ground and then I just want to move into the next movement. I don't want to go like and then do it. So that sense of finding the ground so that you're able to just press move at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that.
That might explain why I hit Ian last night on his knee with his key with the Joe. Because I was actually practicing this, and instead of this,
right,
I directly move forward.
Yeah, right. It's the same. Like if you go with this, like if you go like with the Joe, that same feeling. Actually, the Joe's even away a little bit easier because your basic movement's coming from below, and that kind of feeling. But yeah, as long as I've got the coordination, like the lower body over the upper, that will the issue will kind of resolve itself. As soon as I go like the arms, immediately I get pulled out of it. So that feeling of like the lower body hook, and then it comes into it. But looking for that direct connection is also tricky. Which is why like if you think about teaching beginners, you teach them left foot here, right foot here, and you teach them coordinating.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. So we spend a lot of time like doing that. They go together, but actually later they're not working. They're working together, but they're not like staccato together. They're like that leading that. So this is also useful. Useful kind of ball with it, but anyway, coordination issues and grounding, they never go away. Look at them. Always there. Right. Nice. So we looked at the 𝒍𝒐𝒏𝒈, the 19 and 20 yesterday. Do the same movements with the sword, just a slightly more direct one. So you're going to go, just change the cut slightly now. It becomes more of a 𝒂𝒂𝒿 and a 𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒂𝒕. But again, you've got that same beginning. You're just going to press in, find this. That hip's just a little bit more open now. So it's a little bit more of a 𝒂𝒂𝒿. And then we're going to go here at the top. You've got a slightly different position with the hand in this one. You've got this position rather than this way you would have the 𝒍. So you're in a little bit closer. This position, and then again, starting from the ground, finding the cut here. So working with two 𝒂𝒂𝒿. Nice short form, pressing in, roll into the back, pressing into the second 𝒂𝒂𝒿. So and just working a nice clear kind of key so you can focus on. those kind of compressions, keeping the ground, working with the ground. Yeah, okay, good. So it's useful, again, think about pressure in this one. So if you're thinking about, in a way, like an Ikkyo position, like this kind of movement, it's not the same position, obviously, but try and fill this with a feeling as you come up, rather than it just be like, I get to position. Have the sense that you're actually receiving weight through it. So that would be either like a strong strike coming through it, or just the idea, just the physical idea of actually like squeezing that movement out of the ground this way. So if you think we've got this movement a lot in the Joe, we don't tend to do it in the bottom, but imagine you're actually receiving pressure into the system here. Just slightly change the body a little bit, rather than the sense that I'm just going to get to position and then come into the next one. So feel that you're really kind of receiving weight through the structure. And again, this would just help the sense of finding the ground. And then what you do is the sense that you would release that weight and come into that next movement. So obviously later in terms of combat form, you're gonna receive the strike, feed it into the next movement. But first, I need a clear pathway into the ground to kind of do that. So just get the sense here, sense a little bit pressing out through here, and then just look at how easy it is to then go into that next movement. So once you've got that pressure kind of built, you can kind of feed it into the next movement. Bring it back. So it was this video I found yesterday of Toei doing Joe, kind of doing freestyle Joe movements, and then later with like Joe Mochinaga with someone on the end of it. I think it was Yamada on the end of the Joe. But anyway, this is a really clear example of weight underneath and the arms being free to do whatever whatever you need them to do. So just play the last 30 seconds or so. I'm not going to do anything like that. I can't do anything like that anyway, but get the sense that now what you want to do is use the ground and the feet, and then find this. Right? So the key thing now is that I'm not relying on the arms to find the ground. If I do, I end up with something like this, like this. And if I throw in the arms out of the structure, I get like that. So really consider now about the ground. So the ground needs to be with the legs. So this constant sense of rooting yourself into the ground, but really super tricky to do in motion, in movement. Just play with that a little bit last. Right. Whoosh. Yeah. Ooh. Great, very good, guys. I actually saw another video. It was from John probably knows more about this than me, but it was from a 𝒂𝒊𝒄𝒂𝒃 school in India, and they were basically using a really long stick. It looked quite light, but they were really using it like this kind of stuff. And you can see the same kind of principles happening with this guy. He was totally grounded in the lower body, and the upper body was totally free to kind of express the kind of movement. But it was a nice kind of example. And the 𝒂𝒃 video also was a great example. But anyway, this lower body allows the upper body to then be free to kind of express those kind of movements. But anyway, that's that. We will continue this kind of movements next time. Hi. どうもありがとうございます。どうもありがとうございました。Great. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.